Hi, everybody. It's Ron for another installment of Looking at Today's Headlines with Ron. And boy, today it's been you just have one of those days where all kinds of big things happen and you got to scramble. Someone got my credit card details. I think I had to run around to the driver's license department. I got caught in the rain in a taxi, and it's one of those days. I think everything's turning out okay, but it is one of those days that sort of it makes you have to be at attention. And I know I'm going to sleep well tonight, but anyway, I won't sleep well tonight if I look at all these headlines, because this is the Drudge Report. It's traditionally been considered a kind of right-wing alarmist website, and then I just saw an article a couple of years ago saying it's now a left-wing website because everything has to be labeled. But in any case, it is alarmist. So let's look at these headlines. We've got more stuff about Gaza here at the top. You know, whenever there's a lot of news, they put a lot of extra little headlines here. All of this, the delay in the invasion of Gaza, I think all of it bespeaks the unusual, perhaps unprecedented response to the incursion and the hostage taking, where you have quite a lot of people in the United States and in London trying to support Hamas. Or I don't think this hasn't happened in previous decades, not to this degree. And then this article from CNN, which I'd have to say that it often seems to be a very alarmist site, somehow on the left side a little bit. But here they are noting that that Iran, the U.S. intelligence says Iran-backed militia groups planning to ramp up attacks in the Middle East as Iran seeks to capitalize on the backlash in the region to U.S. support for Israel. So I think there is something different that's going on with this situation this time, as opposed to all the many, many, many decades of the past where things have basically been the same, but people have supported Israel more, at least in the Western democracies. Hamas begs for fuel. Bibi, do or die. Okay. Again, it seems like Ukraine is totally knocked off the pages of all the news, not just this. We have more stuff about people daring to support Hamas, or at least be critical of Israel. Wave of anti-Semitic flyers in San Diego. So what an interesting time we live in. And I don't mean interesting in a good way. It's, who would have guessed? A lot of people, I used to be involved in groups that were creating trends, and everything that has happened, particularly with Trump coming to power and some of the fringe movements that seem to feel empowered by him. And now this sort of situation, it's quite something I don't think anybody predicted. Just 2 years before the 2016 election. And now we're well into this era of polarization. Okay. Cook can't make iPhones without this Chinese company and its CEO. Okay. I will cry a little bit for that. Not really. More about Musk here. Trump's always here, his legal troubles. Of course, we know that Drudge initially in the 2016 era did not put a bunch of rabble-rousing headlines that probably would have poisoned Trump to the Republicans or the right wing that would read this site. But later on in the next election, he unleashed all the news that has seemed to have disadvantaged Trump. Gen Zers increasingly drawn to simpler living. That's a good, interesting concept. We talked about that yesterday. That's that, and this comes up in a lot of these articles. No trend goes out ad nauseum into the future. Every trend will go back and forth. So it wouldn't be like there's just more and more crazy social media. You know, we have Facebook, then we had Instagram, and now we got TikTok, and there's going to be something crazier, and people are going to get more and more involved in all of this social media and intertwining themselves in technology. That's not going to happen. There's going to be a blowback with people going back to a simpler, more disconnected lifestyle. I tried to read this article about who's behind the sassy man apocalypse taking over TikTok. I read it. I don't know. I'm on TikTok. You can find me there, but TikTok is just garbage. I love Instagram. There are lots of pretty girls in bathing suits, not a lot of ads. And it's like, okay, this is exactly what I want. You know, it's better than Facebook. Doesn't have all the groups and the marketplace and the dating. It's just people with beautiful pictures of themselves. But then when you go on TikTok, it's weird garbage and clickbaity things that are written and people pulling dumb pranks and tons of like stuff being pulled out of people's ears. It's very hard to navigate that site. I don't know. So here's another thing. Maybe this is something that's passing me by, but I don't know. I'm not interested in being a sassy man. Okay, here's our second column here. This is incredible. Off-duty Alaskan Airlines pilot charged with attempted murder after trying to shut down plane engines mid-flight. You know, when I saw this, isn't this something we think about sometimes? You know, like the things that could go wrong with aircraft. And the aircraft are so ubiquitous, it's like taking a bus. And you just think, well, somebody would do something horrible and crazy like this, surely. But flying is apparently super safe. Lucky they caught this guy. Stunned neighbors of fantastic father. Of course, that's what always happens when somebody does something crazy. The neighbors say, oh, he was quiet and kept to himself. Growth numbers set to show U.S. remains world's economic powerhouse. This does make sense. There's a number of reasons why the U.S. geographically, you know, the access to very cheap labor in Central and South America, that it isn't in danger of collapsing into irrelevance. You know, my entire life, which has been a long time now, you know, all through the 80s, all through the 90s, all through the 2000s, when you travel around the world and you talk to other analysts, you talk to common folk who are not analysts, they all have the same thing. America's over. It's the end times for them, and a whole new group of countries are going to rise up. And that hasn't been the case, you know. You know, it was Southeast Asia, and they had their boom and their bust. They certainly were able to capitalize on that. And I guess just recently, the biggest example of that are the BRICS, the Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. And the history of that is that was a grouping that was created by some financial company it's an artificial grouping, and those countries are so diverse and all have their different problems. It's not likely that they're going to somehow eclipse the developed economies. In general, any country that's a certain way for a long period of time, it's because of a lot of things, culture and the politics and geography, maybe more than anything else. And that means it's likely to be similar to that in the future. You usually don't have huge sea changes to have a country become the next big thing. Sometimes happens, but normally countries are locked into those factors. Coca prices soar to highest in 44 years. Brittany death fears over Adderall. I've already said, I hope she's okay. I don't know. How aging makes you more conservative. Most people feel that you're a wild hippie teenager, and then you got something to protect as you get older, so you're less likely to want to tax, to want to march, to want to overthrow the system. the juices aren't flowing as freely as they used to. So you're less willing to fight for things, I guess. Um, what else do we have? Taylor Swift. What's the appeal? She's good, I guess. I don't know. I've heard a couple songs. It's quite amazing how a person like that has become a phenomenon. And I've seen various articles trying to explain why this person is a phenomenon, Taylor Swift, but nothing that I think is convincing. But certainly it means something when young women in such a way gravitate to someone like that. And it's not like she's a crazy, wild counterculture person like Madonna either. She's kind of a typical wholesome type of person. Interesting. From doom to boom, AI slowly energizing San Francisco. I think this is about the money that is poured into this. Yeah, so, I mean, this is, there was apparently a kind of a slow slide in Silicon Valley, and then this AI thing suddenly had the venture capitalists pouring enormous amounts of money to get in on this gravy train. Now, I'd already, even months ago, I've seen articles that say, could this AI thing be a bust? Could they not find a way to really monetize it? And maybe an example would be, Amazon's Alexa. Well, I don't know if it was in the whole year or in a certain period, they lost $9 billion in operating it. Not that it cost $9 billion to operate, but they lost it. And that Alexa, all of that talking thing. I've got one right here, but it's not turning on. But I was going to demonstrate for you. But it demonstrates how something with Alexa that Amazon put so much money in, assuming that somehow they could monetize it, that maybe for, at least on the consumer level, that's really not an option. You already talk here about, we have to get rid of our smartphones and we're going to have these AI phones. They're going to do everything for you. You really want that? I don't really know. Sounds like it'd be fraught with abuse. I don't want other things thinking about what I'm supposed to be doing on my phone. Fauci warns of new nightmare about the inevitable pandemic. Now, these things do happen. They've happened over and over again. Obviously, in this polarized time, there are people who don't believe anything, and they think that before the next election, there is going to be some sort of pandemic that will be spun up out of nowhere or over exaggerated, so you can have months of absentee balloting again before the election to throw the election to one side or another. So it'd be very difficult to run all these conspiracies that people think they are. As interesting as conspiracies are, most of them in the world that we live in, with so much ability to get information out there, I'm not sure that's really feasible or reasonable to think that most of those conspiracy theories are really possible. But I know people who think every conspiracy theory is possible, and it's happening. So, inside LA's brazen sex market, I had several people send me this article. This is in various areas in the big cities, mainly on the coast in the United States, in New York and in California. They've changed the laws so the police cannot arrest people maybe for pandering or for loitering with an intent to pander, to commit prostitution. And it's been open season. People have immediately taken advantage of that. And in most cases, there are really good reasons for those laws. The problem may be in the way, perhaps overzealous policing in some cases, but I don't know. Rex Reed, good old film critic, quite old now. He's always a good for a contrarian opinion. He's someone, he thinks Martin Scorsese's Flower Moon is exhausting. Still, I want to see that. Looks interesting. Santos caught in another lie. I'm already tired of that. More about the House leader. There's stuff here every day about it. Not that interesting. More about Argentina every day. Not that interesting. Venezuela, kind of a problem country. New era of psychedelics in Oregon. I'm glad I'm too old to be tempted by that. Maybe if I was a kid, but it'd be awful to raise a kid in a place where they could get their hands on those things, and maybe not reach their full potential. I don't know. You know, anytime you say something like that, there'll be dozens of people that say, "Oh, it's harmless." This is more great alarmist headlines. As if all the other things haven't excited you enough, we have one of California's riskiest volcanoes very active. Eruption coming? Moon is 40 million years older than thought. Ancient crystal suggests. Stop the presses. Does blood transfusion pass on donors' personality too? Oh, well, it's from the Mail Online, so it's got to be true. I say this every day. Any kind of medical article or link you find in the mainstream press is usually just sort of a clickbaity sort of thing. So there we have today. Today's October 24th. Oh, we're almost already through October, and my head's spinning from the events of today. Like I said, too many crazy things have happened, and I'll be ready to when this day is over. So before we go on, I will mention this. This is my another book. This is a book of short stories that are based on the true events, that are actually the true events of my life living in Asia, mainly in the 1990s. Different countries. I was in Thailand's Black May in 1992, where soldiers fired on us, and in Burma, examining a sword. I was in Cambodia in early 1990, trapped by the Khmer Rouge in the Bayon. And I had a memoir. It's a memoir, but I tried to use the discipline of the short story to tell these in a succinct and a thematic way. So that's my book, A Last Century, and it's on Amazon and Kindle if you wanna read it. And if you do, let me know. And again, I'd love it if you like any of these comments and the context I'm trying to make on the headlines today. With the headlines, don't have a lot of information. It's just blah, that piece of information. It almost always needs some background. That's important. So if you like this sort of thing, please subscribe and like or leave a comment. And that helped me out a lot, and I'd appreciate it. Thanks very much. Bye-bye. See you tomorrow.